Yeah, so you ready to go? Yeah, she's standing.
I'm standing
I
because
know,
you've got me and
yeah,
Joe.
sorry, don't worry, I can totally understand that, yeah.
I'll sit back down.
Oh, is it television gone off? Oh no, if you press play, I think you should pause on the dark bit.
Do you want the lights down again?
I know, I was in front of
Do the
it.
edge, yes.
It's really good.
Standing up, excellent. Don't forget this one there. Yeah, and look. Yeah.
Things we have seen up to this point.
Okay, so we've been looking at praise and using praise effectively, and that if we pinpoint exactly what we like of the specific behaviour or the aspect of the behaviour, we're far more likely to get more of that, more of the behaviour we want to see. So we've also been focusing on children's behaviours that support and encourage academic skills and success. So we're going to shift now towards children's social skills, such as listening and cooperating, which are really important foundation skills to achieve academic success. So by affirming and praising, helping and sharing and listening to one another, this is a powerful way of promoting positive interactions within your classroom. So that's going to be our real focus, that's social interactions and promoting those without commenting. So looking at page 91 of your folders, you can turn to page 91. I might need the right one actually. Looking at the behaviours and thinking about your target student, which behaviours are you currently noticing and praising? So can you put a star next to the ones that you're noticing and praising? I'll let you find page 92.
91.
91.
In session 2.
Sorry, hang on.
It will be in the notes
It's this
that were
one
on your
here.
chair this
Oh,
morning.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I've set the thing on your
No, no, no.
We'll just
Clarify.
Yeah, my apologies.
put it into session.
You could put it in there if you like, or so have a look. Which behaviours are you currently noticing and praising for your target student? Put a star next to the ones that you know that you are currently praising, and circle any behaviours that you think you could focus on as part of your behaviour plan. So stars and a circle.
And you're working so hard and diligently. Shall I hand out the things? Shall I do that?
Yeah, what a great idea.
Otherwise there's these. You're working so hard, you're so focused.
you.
Ray. Keep it up.
I'm going to go for the peas. I mean, your handwriting was beautiful.
I know.
So I was like, that's so nice.
I feel like that's
Like
one of her
slow.
superpowers. Jeez, incredible.
Yeah, I'm loving the writing.
I need to.
Okay.
Would you like
You could take it home for later,
a
or
running instead?
Fine.
you can store them up for other people, or later on.
Oh, mate, I'll just go and help myself.
Yeah.
In the middle, I'll just do a student.
Yeah.
My target
Open in the
student.
middle of a quiet time.
It would be your target. No, my target student, I'll just behave like them and see how we go.
You will try to do physical work.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys will use my strategy to see if I'm going to comply.
Probably what it would do.
I like the
No.
pins too.
Oh, I'm changing your guardian lectures today.
what have you got?
This is
I got
heavy.
the original.
I just use.
We're not allowed to use.
I love the wasabi ones.
Oh, I haven't had the wasabi, but I love wasabi.
Yeah, no,
Are
I
they
know.
The chili ones, the chili ones.
Oh,
are
I love chili.
Oh,
I love it. I love sambal.
Well, we're doing them all the time, so.
kind of heavy one.
I'm just interested, cause having been the person that bought them, I'm intrigued to see what people picked, because you never know what's going to go down well and what isn't. So
I think you've got a real
I was
variety.
thinking that
I don't normally eat popcorn, but my kids have got me onto this.
And he was on the salty after the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
This just looks like my pantry.
Well, I don't really buy these, so I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Making kids lunchboxes.
I'm trying to see because my kids always eat these, so I was like, I want to see what the fuss of it is.
Is it worthy of the fuss?
My kids
It's
don't
roast
like them.
potato. I don't know if I quite like the
Roast,
texture.
see, that's
but
healthy. It's not fried.
I don't know if I like the texture, but
My kids don't like them. They'll eat the salt and vinegar flavour ones.
That's
yeah.
them, yeah.
That sounds
It's
nice.
just got a bit of flavour to it.
I wonder if they're a little bit like the cobblers that I used to work at Common Co when I was a teenager. And I don't know if you were, but they
I
had
used to eat them too.
You know what?
No way!
Yesterdays.
Snap. Which one?
Well, I grew up in Hilton. So
Okay, well we didn't work at the same one then, but
I went to the
such
University of Woking.
an interesting connection.
The
I ended up behind the bar a lot.
Yeah, I did
Making
too.
traffic lights.
Making
Pink
traffic lights, Pink
Panthers.
Panthers, Blue Lagoon.
Green one, green slime.
That sounds like that place with the big buffet. They used to do all those. What is that called?
Valentine's.
That's it,
They
yeah.
did as well. Yeah.
The texture is like the texture of like a crusting or something. That's what it is.
That is. Oh right. Okay. Yeah. But good on you bringing it back in.
Yeah.
Stay on topic.
And for trying something new.
Oh, hold on, that's my daughter. Sorry, guys.
Quite warm
Hey,
again.
sweetheart. Why?
Okay. So when you've done that, we can just pop that down. It's just as a little thought then for us to hold when we go to our behaviour plans, having a little think about praise statements for your children. So we're now
You're right.
Yeah.
The phones land so heavily.
I just make sure I'm not hitting my head on anything.
No. Yeah.
This is how I did. I drop everything and I go.
okay, so we're going to have a look at some vignettes around promoting social competence and encouragement, and we're going to have a little look here about the what the teacher is praising here.
For academic skills. However, teachers are also concerned with developing and nurturing their students' social skills. In fact, social skills such as listening, cooperation, and appropriate question asking are the foundation for academic skills. Attention, encouragement, and praise are powerful tools for reinforcing positive social behaviors in the classroom. Notice what social behaviors the teachers attend to in the next scenes.
Like the way you're doing it together. Thank you.
So,
24? How do you like 24?
so in that one back there, what did you hear the teacher praise saying?
We're all doing it together.
Okay, being collaborative.
And can you see here as well how the teacher, her tone that she's using as well? So maybe some warm fuzzies. So have a little think about what percentage of time do you reinforce social behaviours versus academic behaviours? This is a little personal thought. How often do you think you manage to do that?
I want to say a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Your social behaviours are things like wandering around, like they're wandering around and trying to get it back, but then your academic is praising the academic. I don't know. Depends on the child. It's really hard. I can't.
I think sometimes I like praise more the social than the academic, so maybe having that balance would be good. Cause
I was like that as a teacher too. Actually,
yeah.
I reflect.
So I know you just put chip in your mouth, but what sort of social behaviours, when you say, what sort of things are you currently at the moment thinking on the top of your head what you're praising, what sort of praise that would be?
Like if they're following like the expectations, so moving around the classroom, how they're communicating with one another, like even just like the management of like voices. I praise those that are able to speak quietly and kindly to each other. How we like treat the classroom objects and that kind of thing. So and then do like your behaviour management.
Fantastic. It's interesting when you actually think about it, what you praise. It's quite hard to remember sometimes, isn't it? So on this vignette, we're going to have a little look about when a teacher chooses to focus on a child's attention rather than the correct answers. So have a little look here.
I'm going to
Rewind.
it. If I can just do
You
it
can just go
properly.
back to that. Do that one. It'll take you right back to the beginning.
24? How do you write 24? 2. And then what comes next? And then 4. Christina, you're really paying attention.
So when would a teacher choose to focus on a child's attention rather than the correct answer?
That's a danger. That looked like it was going to go into a dangerous situation.
He would lose his chair if that was my classroom.
But also if the answer wasn't going to be right, and it's going to put them down even further. Different phrases. Well done for contributing rather than focusing on the answer being correct.
Right, lovely. Yeah, so contribution.
Yeah.
So contribution to the conversation.
Yeah.
So basically what we're looking at is about how important those social skills are, just like you were saying there, to support their academic success, because by showing that concentration, that focus and so forth, she's going to be more successful with her work. Yeah. Do the same behaviour principles work for children diagnosed with developmental delays or attention difficulties? So thinking about neurodiverse or ADHD children, would you apply the same behavioural principles to those children?
I think you have to be careful with your phrasing of expectations so that it's obtainable for everybody. And so that the messaging remains consistent would be what I would think. Anybody else? Crystal silence.
How about if it is for let's say a child who's experiencing ADHD, and you've got, perhaps if it's a child in that circumstance, but that child normally experiences ADHD, how do you feel about the praise in that situation for that child? Or the value or importance of it?
It's the importance is the same.
Importance is still variable. 100%. But they also don't necessarily like to be, well, I suppose when we find this more in the year 7, 8 pace, where they start becoming more aware of how they are different, they don't like it pointing out to them that they are doing behaviours that are not aligned.
But in this case,
With
the
others.
praise, how about if you were pointing out praise, if they're saying have ADHD and you're
Yeah.
praising attention, how would that go?
Yeah, so what I tend to do with, like, Leo, for example, it'll be a conversation after everybody else is dismissed. I'll say, hey, can you come and see me? You did really well focusing. Do you know what to do next, sort of thing? So that's sort of like a checking in with him, so that he might have been using everything to stay still, and not actually understood what the task is. And so it's I'm using that sort of moment in time with him, just that one-on-one time, rather than distracting the whole group and him from already doing the right behaviour. I don't want to break that focus.
And the way you front loaded it with, you've shown great attention, is a really nice way to say, this isn't a criticism, this isn't why I'm telling you the instructions, and actually giving them that opportunity for praise, which you might not do for other children who wouldn't find attention difficult.
Yeah.
Perhaps. That's a really nice way.
I feel like sometimes we've had a few kids that are off like to the side doing a task, and they might not look like they're paying attention, but they sometimes are actually they're listening, but they need to like be fiddling or playing. Or there was a kid in my mentors class that was always playing with Lego because that's how he was able to regulate himself. But when he went to go to his work, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes.
So I feel like it really depends on the child and their behaviours. I have a kid in my class who's got ADHD, and I often have him sitting doing a little pattern project, and sometimes he'll come and join in if he's interested, and it depends. He will be listening to me, but it depends on like how they can engage in the class and how they respond. So I feel like it depends on the context of the kid.
But you can still praise the fact
Yeah.
that he listened and he
Yeah.
knew what to do, and absolutely, and comment on that.
Yeah, we've got the same. We've got a autistic child down in the year 5-6 space, who's constantly doing origami, paper origami with different things. And I'll be like, right, I've got to go and just check in on another learner. You need to listen to what the teacher's saying so that you can tell me what we need to do. So when I get back, and he will still be doing the thing, but he can tell me straight off what we're doing. So even though he's head down, focused on those things, like, cause I've kind of pretended like I've been going out and not. I've listened to what the teacher said, and when I've come back, he's actually told me. So, like I said to the teacher, that's really interesting because we were thinking that he was distracted and not focusing while he's doing this. But he's actually listening because his brain knows how to do all that paper folding, top of his head. He can make it from scratch. He doesn't even need to focus on that. It's not a distraction. So
it's probably a way to regulate.
and it is for him because he's sitting on the mat or he's sitting on the chair, so he's actually present, he's in the moment, he's actually listening to what he needs to do, he knows what he needs to do.
And it kind of goes back to one of the things that we were talking about before in terms of that, how the other students are feeling about what's happening in the context. That feeling of, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to be, and this is what is right, and this is what teachers asked, but that person's not. So in that video you saw that as well, with the child crawling around back, but the thing that was praised was the way these students were sitting and doing the thing that they were asked to be doing, and so they're getting the information that actually, I know this is happening, but you are doing exactly what I want you to be doing. So it's kind of acknowledging that space where there's that things
So
happening
you have that like communication with your kids, and I've done it where the kid is not being in the classroom, and I've just said, look, this person has extra support or needs, and this is why he might not be doing exactly what everyone else is doing, but this is what works for him. And then once you have that understanding, it's no longer why does he get to and we don't. It's they understand, it's because they need extra support.
And you've got lovely opportunities to praise both, like Emily was saying, to praise all the children that are doing the right thing and making the good choices, and for the boy that looks like he's doing the wrong thing, he's actually listening and he's retaining the information, following the
And not diminishing the praise for those learners that are inclusive, to learners that are trickier in collaborative settings. Making sure that you're not just praising the child for participating, but also those that have been inclusive and kind to them. Especially like that can get nasty, because they're different. It can look fake and it's just undertoned and it's whatever it looks like. But those learners that we shouldn't diminish their praise for everybody in the group to make these things happen. And they're tricky and it's going to be harder and they'll have to do more work potentially than other groups, and that should all be praised too. But, full stop.
If you're naturally using a lot of praise, people may not be so aware of the how it's distributed. Do you know what I mean? If you're using it a lot, like properly, precisely, and things appropriately, then hopefully they won't be noticing whether if they feel somebody's getting more than others.
It's like one of my students, he doesn't like eye contact, and at first before I knew him, I was like, you're not showing me respect by not looking at me, but then I realised he actually listens better when he's not making eye contact and he actually understands it. It was like I had to actually let Mum know because she would be on his back the whole time being like, you need to look at your teacher, you need to respect her, and I was like, well no, actually he is listening and he is actually thinking and doing the right thing. He just feels uncomfortable with eye contact, so then that way he also felt heard and listened because then he wasn't forced to be uncomfortable or anything like that. Yeah.
So now we've got another vignette with a teacher. She's sitting at a table doing some art with some children. Can you consider what makes the praise effective as you're watching this? So you're on fast forward.
I hear, oh, you are really listening to your friend Lucy. That's great. I like the way you're sharing. You do have lots of scissors to choose from.
So what do you think made the praise effective?
And she was praising them working together and helping each other. She didn't praise just one, they were all important.
Yes. Okay.
And she was praising the action, not the person again.
Yeah. So she was quite specific, wasn't she, about that they were sharing and that they were listening. And how frequently do you think you should be praising children? And we're thinking of that age, say 4 to 6 years. How frequently do you think you should be praising children of that age?
Quite often.
And how does this look then for older children, such as 7, 8? Frequency of praise for them.
They still need the praise, but in the right setting and the right time.
I think, like we've been talking about, is like it needs to be more meaningful with context. So it's not just like, oh, well done for sharing. They know now how to kind of do that sharing, but make it now more noticeable and more meaningful, I would assume. Because if they were hearing, you're doing amazing, I really like the way that you're doing that constantly, they maybe like roll their eyes, yeah, whatever kind of thing. That's when they might
I'm not a 5-year-old anymore.
Yeah,
I
so your
know
voice
that.
and your tone and everything has to be very different.
And like Sarah said, you know, taking them afterwards and having a chat and acknowledging or discreet is quiet.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at coaching, which is using descriptive commenting to support children in their behaviour and their learning. If you could go to your textbook, if you've got your textbook.
This chunky thing.
We want page 134 to
Do we keep the folders, but
135.
not the textbook?
Correct.
We keep the folders,
Yes.
not the textbook.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
correct.
go back, yes.
134.
Yeah, to 135. What I was going to ask you to do is just to read silently in your head. Don't know if you can read loudly in your head. So it's from, here it is. Where, you see the second paragraph, it says all types of coaching described in this chapter. If you could just read that to the end of that on page 135, yeah, just so it's that one large paragraph that goes over the page. So coaching involves, it's using descriptive comments, so like a narration to highlight specific learning skills. The teacher enters the child's world and narrates the student's ideas, thoughts and interests. It provides focused attention on the learning process, but it doesn't include questions. And this is a really big one because we have such a habit of, as teachers, of asking lots of questions. No questions, just comments and narration. There's no commands, there's no corrections. Now at first it does feel really unnatural, but this passes as you get used to the sound of your own voice making constant statements. And we might be good at doing this with academic tasks, but we want to focus on social and emotional competencies as well, which are linked beautifully with our key competencies that we looked at earlier. My thinking is when we're talking about entering this child's world, we tend to very naturally do it when you've got young children. So if you can imagine that commenting you do if you have a little baby or something, and you're playing with your bricks, or you played nicely, you shared with your friend, it's that sort of level where you're kind of going into that world where you're thinking about the child's headspace. So first question, is social and emotional competence just as important as academic competence? We've done a lot of talk in class. Did you want to do a turn and talk to the person next to you? Perhaps if, so because you're on the MGS, you get to.
Yay,
Is that right? So is social and emotional competence just as important as academic competence? Okay.
I was just trying to ascertain whether the key competencies are actually going to be updated in line with the rest of the new curriculum. So I was just Googling it, sorry.
Nothing yet.
It says that they're still the same from 20, not 20, yeah.
Maybe they'll make it more talk or
Yeah, it's just interesting given how so much of the vocabulary in the curriculum has changed the way it's worded in instruction, and they will update the wording instruction of those key competencies. But I actually cannot tell you what the answer is
Yep, sounds great.
at all, so.
I said
Is
Isabel,
it time? Is that really?
Did you want me to repeat the question? Or
Yeah, a little bit, thank you.
So is social and emotional competence as important as academic?
Absolutely, if they don't feel safe, they can't, they're not ready to leave.
yeah, exactly, like they don't
accept
accept
the
confidence
challenge of the task. You're going to be able to regulate yourself.
And, you know, I often
And
joke that
to be
I've
able to
got my kids till they're 18 before I leave them out in the real world, and they have to be functioning adults,
And I like what you said as well about
basically, and if they're gonna head out in the real world and not be able
that
to
they might need
conversation,
more
they're not going to experience success in the same way,
competencies when they mature
that's
and
the
get
outcome.
older
yeah. I think if they're not
to
able
be
to
successful.
understand
It's a really good point.
a situation or someone or communicate.
Taking turns, we're not talking over other people or any of those things. That's why actually I think like the new curriculum that includes oral literacy is such an important
Even
aspect that's not being handed,
cooperation
added,
as well.
not handed, added to
Like
the
when you think
curriculum.
about
You don't know any,
social
right?
learning tasks
And we would do that a lot as well in our sort of reciprocal reading
which might require maybe
conversations
them
or
to do
literacy
reading
circle discussions as it were.
conclusions
That
and
turn
writing.
taking component.
They need to
And if they can't participate effectively, but that is,
Having patience and
Yeah,
not being
really important, isn't it?
get caught in their own head, right, where they just want to put out their own ideas.
yeah.
But that is tricky for
Teacher,
neurodivergent
to be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
cooperate with
learners,
the
you
teacher,
know, being able to
do
do
what
that.
is asked of you, when a demand is put on you.
Any thoughts just to feed back to the group?
Well, I mean,
It's a lovely conversation, so it sounds like we've been.
there's just as much importance
Mm.
on the emotional and the social,
Mm.
because at the end of the day that defines who you are and how you act in situations. And therefore you need to be praising and doing, if you're doing the right thing socially, you know, to know that is, because there are a lot of kids, especially nowadays, who have no idea of social. situations. They can't read a room, they don't know that they're pushing something too far and stuff. So it is important to focus on that social and emotional for them to get a better understanding of how different learners are. So for instance, you might have learners that they do fiddle or fidget with stuff, but that's how they're keeping their brain focused on the situation, and it's trying to educate the other learners that that's okay because that's how they work, but you work differently. So very much so social, especially nowadays because of all the social media and stuff like that, kids not knowing how to interact. It is important to focus on that because that is might hinder their academic side, and if you're trying to push the academic side, it's not gonna, does that make sense?
It's going to support their academic
Yeah, it's gonna
progress, isn't it?
support them because they'll know how they work and they'll understand that they don't work the same as other people, and that's okay because we are all different, you know. And so once they've understood that this may not be the social norm, but it's their social norm.
And I agree. I think particularly with historically what's happened in the last 5 years, I think that the fact that the social skills are kind of a huge necessity now, aren't they?
Yeah. I've noticed even when we were wearing masks and like the kids that were raised during that point is that they aren't able to understand facial expressions.
Yeah.
And that was huge, was actually just showing them what the facial expressions mean, because most of the time they grew up with like a mask, and how important to be able to read someone's facial expressions can be how they respond to a situation.
Yeah. So in many ways you're sort of playing catch up a bit, aren't you, for the last few years of difficult times. Okay, so we're going to have a look now in a vignette about catching children being good. Think about what social behaviours the teacher is trying to encourage and how she's avoiding giving courage to negative behaviour. So what's she encouraging and avoiding?
I like the way
Besides praising social behavior that is desirable from all students, these teachers focused on specific social skills that particular students needed help with. I referred earlier to the unfortunate tendency we have of ignoring students who are well behaved and attending only to those who are noisy or misbehaving. Notice how the teachers in the next vignettes avoid that trap. By giving their attention and praise to children who are quiet and attentive, they demonstrate that they value this behavior and do not take it for granted.
Thank you, and I appreciate those who are listening and sitting nice and tall. Just like a team, you're thinking and helping us. You're smart, all right. Here's your choices. Frederick, thank you. You're going to know exactly what your choices are. Denser, thank you. Daniel, thank you. Ida, Con, thank you.
Yeah. So what was the teacher praising there?
So she wasn't that specific, she just said, you'll know exactly what your choices are. I like the way you're listening maybe, I don't know, I actually didn't.
Yeah. Looking this way, sitting up tall.
I don't feel like she actually said that though.
Did she say it right at the beginning, I think.
You'll know what you're listening.
Do you know, I thought it's hard at the beginning.
Well, she
Yeah.
went from doing that bit onto the next bit, didn't
But
she?
then
So she was doing
actually-
something at the
So
beginning.
there's a little bit of a narration at the
I can
beginning.
give you the script if you want, if you're interested.
That's okay. I think we've got the most. Yeah, I think it was right at the beginning. I get completely immersed in vignettes and then I forget the questions. And how about that sort of smile slash stare kind of moment?
She's so lovely.
How is that
I thought it
effective?
was a really nice way of, you're doing the wrong thing, but you know you're doing the wrong thing, and
I know that you're going to get there.
Yes.
You're going to get to the right thing.
Yes.
It's relationship building.
Not making them mouth popping noises. She was still smiling when he did, or she stopped
Yeah.
doing that, and so that is that non-verbal cue that you were talking about.
Yeah, that physical reward, like warmth and stuff. And then also just like the pointing being like, yep, but you know, come around and like look. And even if I'm not sure how the classroom was set up, but everyone knew who she was looking at. So if I was looking at a student waiting for them to pay attention, the kids around them could also be helping that person to pay attention.
She said, thank you, I appreciate those who are listening and sitting nice and tall, just like a team, you're thinking and helping, da da da. Yeah.
So she set the expectations.
And I suspect with their class treaty or whatever it is for being focused time for learning, there's probably something like good body language, sitting up, showing you're ready to get on to the task or listen.
And the non-verbal reinforcement that she did with that was identifying the students who she could see who were displaying the behaviour that she wanted. So she wasn't necessarily explicitly saying, I want this and this and this and this and this, but she was saying, I see Alex is ready, you're going to be ready for learning, I can see it, you know, and then going through until she got to the student who then was like, what are they all doing that I'm not?
Yeah, but it also means that then they can see the kids that are like modelling the
Exactly.
expectation.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex is doing the right thing. Oh, I know.
Yeah, what does that look like and how can I look like that too? So what do you think is the value of that waiting rather than giving a verbal instruction for the little boy who's popping?
The opportunity to show you that he knows what he needs to do.
So going back to those key competencies where he is thinking and managing self, he's getting that opportunity to reflect on his behaviour and compare it to other learners and figure out what he needs to do. So you're not doing the thinking for him effectively.
It feels like a much better learning situation for him, doesn't it, where he's noticed and corrected himself rather than being reminded. Absolutely.
Giving him time to actually be able to work it out as well.
Then he gets the praise for it too, which is nice.
So it's those non-verbals, proactive strategies and they're avoiding the use of constantly of negative commands and allowing the children that time to think for themselves. What about the smile at the end? Did you like it? It's quite nice, wasn't it, at the end to just give them a nice soothing smile.
But I also like that she pointed to them was to make sure that they knew that the that the praise, the smile is to that person, that they were able to work it out and that she acknowledged that as well.
There's a lovely example of a social reward.
Yeah.
Yes. A non-verbal social reward. Okay, so we're going to look now at social coaching. So in the next vignette, we're going to see an adult working with a small group and he's being a social coach. This means he's highlighting and making obvious to the children the skills that they're using, so they're more aware of the great skills they're using. And this has the benefit of then reinforcing those skills. So as you watch the next two vignettes, can you write, if you've got your post-it notes handy, if you just want to write some of the statements that you hear him say, what his actual statements are.
You can almost think of this kind of teacher encouragement as coaching children. In the next scene, watch how this teacher does this with a boy who has politely asked another boy to give him a truck. But the other boy doesn't oblige initially.
Wanu, you were doing a good job waiting for a turn. Wanu, you are being so patient. Give me a high five. You are waiting for a turn. Wanu, you are being so strong right now. You're being such a good friend, waiting for a turn. And I heard you ask Jordan for a turn with the truck. Way to go. Wanu, you're doing a great job sharing your truck. Hey Jordan, you did a great job. You and Wanu did a great job problem solving. You guys had a problem with the toys, and I saw you try a lot of different solutions, Jordan.
do you notice the teacher doing? Looking at the comments you've written down and watching it, what are you noticing that he's actually doing in this process?
He's praising the child that's with the patients, but also reminding the other learners of what that child's waiting for, so that the child that is maybe having that turn is still getting that someone else is waiting.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's making it feel like the child that's holding onto the track, by the phrasing, he's making it feel like the child's decision to go for the track. Because he's not telling the child to go for the track, but he's saying, oh, it's lovely that you're waiting to the track, so that he also wants to receive that attention, but that's going to be his choice.
Yes. Yes.
Complementing that desired behaviour, so that then they can also display it as well.
Lovely.
And when it happened, when he gave the truck, it was, oh, you problem solved, well done, you know, like, yeah.